Whether you realize it or not, you're probably sleep deprived. According to the Center for Disease Control, 1 in 3 adults fails to get enough sleep on a consistent basis. The vast majority of people need 7 to 9 consecutive hours, and that's whether your work schedule means that you sleep at night or during the day. If you're among the millions of sleep-deprived adults, then you need to know that you have a higher risk of obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, stroke, and frequent mental distress because of it. I'm Dr. Bruce Hoag from psychhacks.com, and in this video you're going to learn why you're sleep deprived, how that affects your life, and what you can do about it. How much sleep do you get every 24 hours? Is it 8 hours, or 7 hours, or 6 hours, or less? Here's a fact that you need to be aware of. 1 in 3 adults gets less than 7 to 9 hours of sleep each night. Are you one of them? If so, then it's essential that you understand that you're causing yourself to experience unnecessary physical, mental, and emotional stress, and that will make you more prone to illness and less effective in your work. You may think, like this lone tree, that you're the exception, that you can get along just fine on 6 or 5 or even 4 hours. But the truth of the matter is that very few people can. In fact, it's the rare, as in R-A-R-E, individual who functions 100% on so little. Sleep deprivation builds over time, and it's the result of consistently failing to get the amount of rest that you need every day. And it's not something that you can overcome by simply catching up on the weekend. That your friends and colleagues do it is no standard. And just because you've managed to survive on less than 7 hours of sleep every night thus far doesn't mean that it's what you ought to be doing. You see, the problem is that you've been sleep deprived for so long that it feels normal to you and your family and your friends. And it's not. You're just like people who work in noisy environments and who tell you that after a while you just get used to it. Do you know why they get used to it? It's because they've damaged the cochlea in their inner ear. What they interpret as getting used to it is in fact early deafness. The same thing happens to you. When you become sufficiently sleep deprived, a time will come when your body will react. You'll get sick. You may fall asleep at the wheel of your car. And with all the added emotional stress that comes with it, you could even have a mental breakdown. So let me ask you something. When you go on vacation, do you find that you tend to nap during the day? When you finally do relax on your vacation, do you feel as though you could sleep all that day and the following night as well? That's a pretty good indication of just how tired you've become. You see, depending on how long it's been since you had a real vacation, it can take you a few days or longer to unwind enough so that you can actually start to rest properly. But once you do, you may find that you're more comfortable lying down than doing anything else. That should tell you something. If you've been burning the candle at both ends for a while, then what you really need to do is to get yourself back onto some kind of sensible schedule. Maybe you don't think you have the time for this. If that's what you think, then consider what something like chronic fatigue syndrome might be like, where you feel so lethargic you can't work at all, and it lasts for years. It's so much easier to fix the problem now than it is to deal with the consequences later. What sort of a schedule? Well, I'm going to suggest that you become a morning person. If you're naturally a morning person, then this should be easy. Simply count back 9 or 10 hours from when you need to be at work, and then make sure that you're in bed on time. No exceptions. Most likely, your problem is simply the result of the bad habit of staying up much later than you should. But most people aren't morning people. Most people, according to Dr. John Medina, are what he calls hummingbirds. They neither want to stay up early or get up early or stay up late. Morning people, commonly referred to as larks, prefer to get up at 5 or 6 in the morning, sometimes earlier. Now you can make yourself do it, but true morning people love it. Given a choice, they'd get up that early even if they didn't have to. Owls have the toughest time. They would rather stay up really late and then sleep late in the morning. That's fine if you only have you to think about. But for the most part, owls have to live with the daylight, and so that means that they have to adapt their schedule accordingly. Why do I want you to become a morning person? I mean, why would anybody deliberately get up that early? It's because it makes it possible to get so much more done before everyone else's day begins. For most people, the workday starts at 8 or 9 in the morning, and many of them get up an hour beforehand and then grab a cup of coffee and maybe a snack on the way to work. Then they finish around 5 or 6, come home, eat, put the kids to bed if they have any, and then stay up late watching TV. Some of them either try to work while watching TV or just work after the sensible people have gone to bed. The thing is that when you're tired, and you will be after working all day, whether you're a morning person or not, it'll take you 2 or 3 times as long to do the same amount of work as you would have if you were rested. And so by getting up early, you can get a couple of hours of work finished before everyone else's day begins. People have written entire books this way. There's a second reason why it's beneficial to get up early, and that's because your mind isn't cluttered with all the activities of the day. It's a lot harder to concentrate on your work after you've contended with people and traffic and shopping and all the rest of it than it is if all that's in your mind are the sweet dreams you had a few minutes ago. How do you become a morning person? It's going to be easier for some than others, but an effective way to do it is gradually. If you're in the habit of going to bed at 1 a.m., for example, then don't suddenly go to bed at 9:30 on the first evening. That probably won't work. But what you could do is to back up your bedtime by 30 minutes or even an hour and be at the sack at midnight for a week or so. When that feels comfortable, then bring your bedtime back to 11 p.m. or 11:30. As before, wait until it becomes comfortable. That is, you can sleep all night and then go to bed earlier still, say at 10 p.m. or 10:30. Keep doing this until you're going to bed at a time that will give you 7 to 9 hours in bed and an hour or two extra before you have to leave for work. And as you make your bedtimes earlier and earlier, you'll also start to get more sleep. You see, if you typically go to bed at 1 a.m. and get up at 7 a.m., that's just 6 hours. But if you go to bed at 11 p.m. and get up at 7, that's 8 hours. The goal is to get back to a bedtime of around 9 or 9:30. If you get 7.5 hours of sleep from 9 p.m., then you can get up at 4:30 a.m., and that will give you a bit more time before everyone else gets up to work on the stuff you were trying to do at midnight, except that this time you'll be fresh, able to concentrate and work faster. Now here's the hack, and this is very important. Start keeping a record of the time that you turn the light off to go to sleep and the time that you get up the next day or after your longest period of rest. I'm saying it like this in case you work shifts. Keep track of how many hours you sleep in each 24-hour period. For any day when you sleep less than 7 hours, write yourself a note to explain why. It's essential that you do this so that you can make adjustments that prevent it as much as possible from happening again. Do this for 1 week and then review it. Pay special attention to those sleep periods when you got less than 7 hours. Maybe you watched TV or spent time on the internet instead of going to bed. You need to be aware of this, especially if it's a habit. To the extent possible, change your pre-bed routine so that you can go to sleep earlier and give yourself the best chance of getting at least 7 hours when you do. If you're in the habit of getting up Instead of just rolling over and going back to sleep until you've been in bed for at least 7 hours, then start doing that now. One more thing. You must keep fairly close to this sleep schedule on the weekends and when you're on vacation. No more than an hour's difference between the time you go to sleep and the time you get up. That's so that you don't get out of the habit of doing it. This will take discipline and determination on your part, but it will pay huge dividends over time. You'll be amazed at what consistent, proper rest does for you. If you enjoyed this video, then please subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up, and click the little bell so that you'll be notified the next time I create another video.